Welcome to my execution environment demo. This demo is being presented at Summit Connect in Utrecht and aims to simplify and explain the creation of execution environments. As a step one, I'll show you how to install Ansible-Builder with all of its dependencies. Step two, we'll create a build directory and definition files. I have cheated a bit. These are pre-created and available in my GitHub repository, which is a public repository, and you are welcome to use it. As a step three, we will then populate the definition files, which is pre-populated based on our collection requirements. I will just give a brief explanation on what these files are for exactly. These files are templates and have explanations and examples in them as well. As a step four, we will then build the actual execution environment based on the files that we have completed, filled in, and used as input. As a step five, we will then push this image that we have just created with Ansible-Builder to our container registry of choice. I will be using Quay or key.io. And then as a step six, this will be up to you, and this is using the image in actual Ansible automation platform, which I'll give you a brief explanation in the session that follows. Perfect. On to step one, installing Ansible-Builder. First step, let's make sure we are logged in as the actual builder user. Next up, let's install the actual dependencies for Ansible-Builder. Dependencies are Python 3.8, Git, and Podman. We're also removing Python 3.6. Next, we'll install pip, we'll install Ansible-Builder as well as Ansible with pip. You can use DNF as well. Then we'll log into our registry, and this is to pre-pull the base image that we will use to build our execution environment on. In this case, I'll be using the minimal install image just to make sure that my container is lightweight. You can also use the full execution environment with existing collections in it. Obviously, this will be less lightweight. Let's pull the actual image. And in this case, you can see it is the EE minimal RHEL 8 latest image from Red Hat, registry.redhat.io. Right, our base image is pulled, and let's just make sure it is available. As you can see, it has been pulled, and we have the latest image. Perfect. Then step two, we will create our build directory as well as the definition files, which in this case I've specified is already pre-populated and pre-created and available in my Git, which is public. Great, so we've pulled my Git repository and just renamed the directory to my execution environment factory, as well as changed the directory into the newly created directory. Then step three, we will now populate the definition files. In this case, they are pre-populated. So I will just go into explaining what the actual files are and giving you a brief overview of what the contents of the files are as well. In the directory, the most important file is the execution environment.yaml. So let's see what the contents are. The contents of the execution environment as my base master file is specifying the version of the execution environment I am building, then some default base arguments, and these are just specifying the image that I will be using and that I have pre-pulled. then some dependency files, and these are the other 3 files in this directory. And the one that I'll be using is the requirements.yaml for my collections, Galaxy collections that I am installing into my image. Some collections do have other requirements like Python requirements. And in this case, you'll use the requirements.txt. An example is the VMware collection. These dependencies are specified on that specific collection page or vendor-specific collection that you're using. Also, if there's any binary dependencies, you can use the bindep.txt, which means binary dependencies.txt. And these are typically the prerequisites that would be installed with DNF or YUM. And then some additional build steps if you want to do some extra things, moving of files, unzipping of files, creating directories, etc., 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 in your execution environment. Great. Let's just see what the other files look like. Let's look at the file that we'll be using, and that is requirements.yaml. In my requirements.yaml, you can see I've specified the collections that I'll be installing. The 2 collections are Fortinet.40 Manager as well as Fortinet.40 OS. As Heike, myself, will explain in the session to follow, is that we do integrate with other automation tools, as well as the services those automation tools actually automate. It just depends on the investment that you have in the existing automation tools that lives in the various silos. Perfect. Then let's see what is in requirements.txt. As I explained, requirements.txt is where you will specify your Python dependencies. In this case, we don't have any. Just an example. And then let's see what is in bindep.txt. As I explained, bindep.txt is typically the binaries you'd install with DNF or YUM, which stands for binary dependencies.txt. This is just to show you the format and how you would use these files. Perfect. So on to step 4. In step 4, we'll continue in actually building our execution environment. In this case, just to explain the command, we're using Ansible-Builder, which we installed in the beginning in step 1. So we're saying Ansible-Builder build -file, the execution environment, the master file we're using, -tag our image to be called my FortiGate execution environment, version 1, and verbosity 2. As you can see, the build completed in a minute. It took about a minute or so it was quite quick. As a caveat, these build steps will work for all collections. The caveats and the differences being eventually the images or the repositories or image repositories would push this to. So still part of build 4, step 4, we will just check if our image is available in our local image repository. And as you can see, here is the image that we just built with tag version 1. Perfect. Moving on to step 5, we will now aim to push this image to an image repo so that you can eventually ingest this into your Ansible automation platform. So first, I am using quay.io. Everyone can just look away for a second while I type in my password. It was obviously a joke. And success, and let's push our image. I've pre-created my repo in my image repository. Again, because we are pushing our image, we just need to check what the image name is, as we'll be using this as an input. And then let's look at pushing this repository. I mean, pushing this image to our image repository. In this case, the name as input that we'll use. And then the remote repository is obviously under my own name, under quay.io, under footy latest. And as you can see, the image was pushed, and I can now ingest this into my Ansible automation platform. Thank you, everyone, for attending this demo. I hope it was helpful and informational. And yeah, enjoy creating your own execution environments, and hopefully it doesn't seem as complicated anymore. Thanks all. Goodbye.